Kelly from the Arts Council and Elevate Cape, and I am here at Top Talent Productions with a very dear friend, the airbrush assassin himself, Mr. Pollination Station. We are here with Malcolm McCrae, and it's always a pleasure because he's one of my dearest friends, and we always like talking to each other a lot and bouncing around ideas, and especially when it comes to kids' art in the community and public art spaces and things like that. I think we see eye to eye on that a lot. So I wanted to kind of allow people who are watching right now maybe to get some insight into where both of us are coming from and how we're starting to collaborate on some things, and then also to give them a chance to see your creative process, because I don't think we have a lot of access to visual literacy like urban arts in our community, which you know has been your forte. So can you tell me a little bit just like about you and your passion and what got you into you know, doing a lot of the STEAM stuff that you do?
Right. Pretty much everything that I've been focusing in on has been built around somebody telling me no. To be honest, you know, as an artist and a creative individual, you know, my momentum and a lot of my things are built around having an idea, a vision, and then trying to really bring that vision to life. So at a young age, I realized I was different. I realized I was a creative individual. Didn't really do the sports, and had a lot of responsibility because I'm the oldest out of 5, and it showed me that to have an outlet was very important. I was labeled with ADHD when I was a kid, so right off bat, I'm at school and not feeling like I'm good enough. And my dad, being an art teacher in the projects in Milwaukee in the public housing, gave me an opportunity to see how art can be used as a tool to as an outlet and to inspire other young people. So I've been an artist all my life. I've been blessed enough not to have been forced to work for anybody. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. So it's all about just being, you know, having faith and staying focused and having a vision, and you know, it's always going against the grain, because the momentum is that when you're different, you know, people look at you different. You know what I mean? You know, look at the style different. So I just realized a long time ago to just really appreciate what I bring to the table. My father and my mother really instilled great pride in my culture and in my family and different things. So I kind of figured out who I was very early. You know, I knew what I wanted to do, didn't know how. So, you know, to be an artist now, you know, I'm just honored to do this work.
Well, I think, like, you know, if you read your book, we're dropping that. No, but if you read your book, I was really amazed when I read it, because you know, I'm from Chicago, you're from Milwaukee. You know that there is definitely like a working class ethos that you build things yourself and you work hard and you invest in your community and things like that. But I think you also faced a lot of other adversity as a young person. Like what you know, as we're trying to get into bringing arts to areas that don't have it, to children who don't have access. What was it to be a young person who might not have had access to the arts to have it? You know what I mean? What was that kind of lifeline for you?
It was, you know, like art saved my life. You know, I'll be 40 years old this year. I got an 18-year-old daughter that just graduated from high school on her way to college, and like I'm dealing with getting calls from friends of mine who's still in the penitentiary that went to jail when we were in high school, you know? So I easily could have got wrapped up into street life, you know, because coming from an environment to where most of the people in my upbringing didn't have a father, didn't have, you know, was coming from a single parent household. I went through my adversity, but I had art. Like, that's what kept me focused, like literally, like, you know, at a young age, I made my first $100 on the street corner in Columbus, Ohio, when we were homeless, airbrushing T-shirts on the street corner. And so for me, art has always been a survival thing as well. So where other people would just do art because it felt good, and I did that as well. But it was like, yo, I need a pair of tennis shoes. My brother needs some shoes. My family, we need stuff to survive. My dad has always been an entrepreneur as well, so the art was it's been an outlet, it's been a tool, and without that, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, and I think you can do it like, they talk about your side hustle, but it's like the legit hustle.
It's like it ain't, it's not even a hustle, it's a lifestyle, because if it was a hustle, you could turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's like literally a balancing act.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people have a problem with going full time in their thing, because it's like, a lot of the times in society, that's not even talked about. Like entrepreneurship. Oh, you can create your own business. Oh,
right.
You got a skill or you got a talent, do your own thing. So
how do you market that?
How to market
something?
that.
Yeah.
Now the new age with the young generation now, I'm so inspired by them because through Instagram, at one time, I'm an 80s baby, so, I watch dial up.
Putting your tape in the tape player, trying to
know
catch
what
the
I'm
song.
saying?
Yeah.
Or just even with the internet, just dealing with dial up, you know what I mean? Slowly watching the internet go up to high speed. I didn't have no internet when I first started off.
Yeah.
If I had the internet, you know what I mean?
I know.
When I was 12, 13 years old, airbrushing, now they can go directly to the consumer, where a lot of times as artists, we always got to have a lot of representation.
But like a lot of what you're talking about too is just like tools. You know what I mean? Like these are financial skill sets. These are having like a body of artistic experience to draw from. It's knowing what to use when. Yeah. And that takes a lot of outreach. That takes a lot of education. And lately in our world, they've been talking about defunding schools and defunding police, it's defunding everything, but something that really matters is defunding art, because what we found during COVID was that like the first thing that everybody went to was art, and the thing that gives people hope and keeps us connected no matter how scary the world seems. It's this process that allows us to deal honestly with difficult things. So like, what can we do as a community you and I are talking about a lot of big projects, and I think this is important because we're talking about, working with the university to provide art classes to not only the Arts Council and their membership, but also to the Community Counseling Center. We're working with 20 North too. So these galleries and these minds and these schools are all coming together, and we're starting on that, but that needs funding, and it's not like asking people for money, it's just saying recognize the inherent value of what it is. Do you feel like that's been a huge obstacle?
Well, I think funding is always an obstacle when it comes to just doing work, community work, or just work period, right? So as creative individuals, I feel like it's our responsibility to come up with creative ways to get it done, right? Because the other perspective of it is that if like we don't invest in our communities and we don't invest in our young people, they're not going to invest in us, because guess what? We all going to get old one day. And our young people is going to be asking us like, uncle, granddad, grandmama, what did you do to help set me up for the next generation, or set the next generation up? So entrepreneurship along with those, for me, has been a great tool, because I've been able to, throughout my journey, mentor a lot of artists. Right? So, and I realized that art is not enough. Like, I'm not the best artist in the world, but I really focus in on my business. I really focus in on my marketing. I really focusing in on making sure that I'm the best business individual, because my business is my life. And artists get exploited a lot, and I know that I didn't want to be an artist that was getting exploited, but I knew that I wanted to live a successful life, not no poor, starving artist, poor righteous teacher life. I wanted to live a life that, I was able to raise a family, to make my father proud and my family proud, and to be able to be a representation, to make my ancestors proud, because I have a responsibility, just like we all would have a responsibility. So I just say that, like, I feel like that being an educator and working in schools all across the country, like traveling, before Corona, we was getting ready to do, you know, a 10, 15 city tour. So working with young people, working with educators, working with administrators, working with, you know, all of the different components. It comes down to responsibility of how we can all come together and have a common ground responsibility, because if we don't work this thing out, our kids suffer.
Yeah.
You know, so the art and creativity, whether it's music, whether it's theater, whether it's poetry, writing, it's very important, you know, because our young people, just like as adults, we are dealing with, you know, COVID and depression, and it was just talking about, you know, a lot of marriage issues are going on right now, you know what I'm saying, because people are forced to have to be,
and kids are seeing
kids
that.
are seeing
kids
this,
are seeing
you
the
know?
collapse of that. Yeah.
And, you know, my daughter just, you know, graduated. This is going to be the first year that kids didn't walk across the stage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a whole different mental shift, you know, for young people. So carrying all of that weight, I'm always working really hard to not drop the ball because of COVID. Like be more proactive, you know, put a little bit more effort and time into, as I'm traveling, as I'm doing things, making sure that I'm doing my part to not allow myself an excuse.
Well, yeah, you gotta, like, part of the creative process is being able to shift and respond. And, like, that's why we're going to be doing, like, all these really cool art videos for kids. And, and like, in response to the fact that, like, we're going to be losing out on programming, you know, and that it really is dangerous, especially for kids who are at risk. And so when we look at the statistics of art, right, we see that, you know, it improves all kinds of, you know, thinking in the prefrontal cortex. It improves relationships. It improves your relationship with yourself. You know, you develop a lot of an emotional vocabulary. But kids who don't have access to the arts, we see that that can turn to anger, and it can turn to violence, and it makes people feel really isolated and alone. Art connects, and I think anything else makes you feel rejected, where instead of having an outlet, you isolate. And so a lot of those kids tend to turn to either negative peer influences for validation, or they you know, or they become a kid who might shoot up a school, or, you know, whatever it is. But when we start to get into community violence, you know, there's things that are happening in our own community as far as violence is concerned. And I know you have, you know, a project that you're working on this evening in relationship to that. So when we, if you want to unveil your
this is a piece right here that go ahead. I'm gonna let you go ahead and continue on talking a little bit.
So this is a piece of Maddie.
Yes.
And Maddie Robinson, and she was killed here in town on her front porch last year, in August of last year. We're coming up on the anniversary of it, and her killers have still not been brought to justice. But as a leader in the Black community, and as a leader in the Black arts community in our town, what is your relationship to this imagery and to this story that compels you to create this?
First of all, I'm a father. You know, I'm a father that I have a daughter. So, and then also, I spent a big part of my creative entrepreneurial business dealing with death in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in my community. Meaning, like, I was, you know, me and my family, we had a business, and we did memorial t-shirts. That's what we did. So, you know, I realized that for an artist, you know, I have a responsibility, and it touched me as well because, you know, she's a young Black child and I have a young Black daughter. How, you know, these senseless acts of violence are just traumatizing, right? So we can get angry and aggressive and fight, but as an artist, I have a responsibility to use my art as a tool and as my voice, and as a voice to be able to bring some awareness, some peace, some healing to our community. So, like, literally, I worked on this piece this morning. Like, I literally painted this. I was like, you know, not even knowing what I was going to create today. And her spirit had hit me. And I just decided that, you know, I was going to spend my morning working on her. So, you know, her favorite color was like yellow. These pieces right here are onks. These are African or Egyptian symbols that mean eternal life. So I'm using these different overlays and patterns in the background. This is a mixture of acrylic, some airbrush, some spray paint, and different things, and some pastels. So I'm gonna be working a little bit more on her, but this is a tool that I wanted to just kind of create to bring some healing to her, her family, and use it as a tool for other individuals to be able to help support the cause. So we're going to be debuting this at the first Friday at, was it 20 North?
Yeah, 20 North Pacific.
Pacific. So if you want to see the original piece when it's fully done, come out there. And then we also, that's going to be the grand opening. It's going to be incredible. So I'll be there, and then I'll be having some other art, but she'll be there as well, fully done. And then we're going to be doing a limited edition signed art prints of her, and a portion of the proceeds are going to be going to her family and the momentum of that movement.
Awesome. So tell us what you're going to be doing on it.
Okay, so before I kind of work on her a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of do some basic airbrush work. So lately what I've been doing is a lot of online classes. We have an online art camp that we've been working really hard on. And this is some of the stuff that I'm kind of just like working through the camp with. We're going to be doing some airbrushing, but a lot of it is also going to be like pencil drawing and different things like that. So I'm just going to do some airbrushing. So I got, this is an airbrush that I designed called the Assassin Airbrush. And I'm just going to show you guys like some basic techniques of the airbrush. It's a pretty easy tool to kind of use once you kind of get a basic flow. So I'm just tearing this paper real quick. A lot of people think that airbrushing is overly difficult, but I'm just going to show you guys by using some basic shapes how we can kind of create some art. So if you're an artist, definitely, you know, look me up, because I'm all about inspiring other artists. If you're a new artist or you thinking about being an artist, I highly support that move. So what I'm going to start off first is with a circle. Everybody see? All right. And then I got my piece of paper. I'm going to go ahead and do a straight line across. So I'm using this paper as like a shield. One of the main strokes with airbrushing is called a dagger stroke. And that goes from 6 to 10. So these are considered dagger strokes. We're going to go ahead and take, I'm going to use this circle container, paint container. Do a circle all the way across. And we're going to go ahead and take that torn paper. Clouds. Dagger strokes.
Triangle.
What another palm tree on this side as well.
You're like a black Bob Ross.
Airbrushing is just one of my tools in my arsenal.
So good.
Fill this up a little bit more. But I've been airbrushing now for over 20-something years. Couple little stars. Go ahead and throw a little boat. So, with just a couple of different techniques, you can be able to see how I take a torn piece of paper, regular piece of paper, and nothing special about this. And we got a straight edge on one side. We was able to use the tears as a tool to be able to throw some graphics for some clouds. Any kind of circle you can be able to use as a tool as well to make a positive or a negative stencil. Just went around there with the airbrush real lightly. And then I use colors like blue because they fade really well. And then you can always add more colors over top of that. So, here you guys go real quick. I wanted to show you guys how to share.
Can I have that?
Yes, you can have it.
Yes! Yes!
I gotta sign it.
Yeah, you do.
So, like, I'm gonna do some of this blue on her as well. So I use kind of like different tools. Like this is like a piece of plastic I picked up years ago, and it's just flexible now. So I'll use this to kind of do certain straight edges. And I'm a color guy, so I don't get wrapped up in like what colors to go where. Got any questions? So the airbrush is like. All of this was done, like I said, with either a paintbrush and like some markers, and then I took some spray paint. So the airbrush kind of gives an opportunity to kind of give nice, soft edges and fades. But I use all different kind of tools.
Do you think that the use of these airbrush t-shirts can be traced to like honoring ancestors in general in the Black community? Has that been your experience?
Yeah, and like majority like areas of people of color, like Hispanic communities as well. You know, it's like a yeah, it is. You know, I didn't look at it like that when we first got into business. But after a while, after you start hearing the stories, and it helps you. Connected to these people, So it is a way of people using art to be able to heal.
Yeah.
All of it is built around figuring out a way to just let this trauma out.
Why do you think the use of the airbrush airbrush became such an urban art form? I know there's an association with the spray paint. You know?
Yeah. The historical perspective of it is that in New York, in like the early 80s, late 70s, some graffiti artists were just doing graffiti. There were some kids doing graffiti. One of them went down to Panama City, Florida, and seen kind of like a hippie guy airbrushing t-shirts on the beach. He seen what the guy was doing and was like, oh, that kind of reminds me of graffiti. Went back to New York, went to this local art store, grabbed an airbrush. They didn't make the paint that they make now for clothing. These guys took like house paint, different kind of paints, thinned it down, and used that back in like the 80s. If you look at all of the old 80s hip hop stuff, it was wearing all of the big bubble letters and graffiti letters on their outfits. A lot of it was out of New York. This guy named Dapper Dan from Harlem had a custom tailoring company, and in the back he let these kids do airbrushing. These guys were called the Shirt Kings, and they to this day they're like legendary, like OG. Some of them that still ain't alive, but they're the ones who kind of paved the way for artists like myself.
Well, don't you think it's important that they had spaces to do it, though? I mean, that's like a huge part of the battle is that now, you know, we're still trying to legitimize, something like graffiti as an art form, and there's huge conversations around that. But we can acknowledge that street art is a very valid form of art. But how do we, validate it in a public space or in a space that maybe is used to westernized art?
Right. I think it's about education, like educating people. Here I am, a black guy in southern Missouri, you know what I'm saying, doing really well as an artist, as an urban artist, if people want to put me in the category, or a black artist, or artist of color. So what I realize is that when I deal with what brought me here and keeps me maintaining here is the art speaks for itself, and people appreciate things that you can do with your hands, and being this area built around a rural perspective, it's an appreciation for anything that people can do with their hands, and I think that was, and people gave me an opportunity to at least build a reputation, right? But now what's happening is that the next generation, as we grow, if you're in this area, you see a lot of tagging around. If you go down to the river, you see different stuff on the river walls, and due to the fact that there's no public walls, there's no public art space where people can just go do public art, it becomes limited. So even as an artist like me,
it becomes expensive
and very
for the city,
expensive for the city to clean up.
That you can, either offer public spaces for art and teach kids how to create things, or quite frankly, they're going to be putting really crude stuff on the Mississippi River wall.
Right. So I think it's a process, but with a lot of the stereotypes of graffiti and urban art, like I see more and more of that being, the past, and now it's like, we just did a project with AT&T. It's like, yo, can we do urban, Codify here, like I did a big graffiti mural inside Codify, and Burritoville, so
here
of
in Top
course,
Talent,
Top Talent did the floor,
Top Talent,
right?
Yep.
One city, so it's showing that good art is good art. If you give people an opportunity to just express themselves. So right now, that's what me and you've been, working on, focusing in on trying to create opportunities so artists like myself can stay living in Cape, so we can be able to create opportunities, financial opportunities where you can keep artists who are here financially able to stay here, and then the next generation of artists teaching youth and young people through art education, through entrepreneurship, how to be able to help build up and beautify their community. Yeah,
to be active citizens. Because the biggest thing about art is that it has the potential to change without, boring all the time.
Right.
It has the potential to beautify, and one of the main components of becoming an artist should be, how are you using that to make the world around you a more interesting or beautiful or intelligent place, you know? So we want anybody who has access to a public art space, particularly around campus or around the community counseling center, because we'll be working with them as well. Anybody who has access around there, let us know, because we are working with the university. We are working with really great people. So if you have a building, a plot, someplace that can be turned into a community space that you want to offer up, like that, you have art educators on board. That's what we need.
That's people ask, like, what can I do? That's what you can do.
Yeah.
You got a space, you got property, you got a space that, you tired of painting it every year. Are you tired of somebody tagging it, some kids tagging it? Get in contact with us. Let us do a piece of art, something that'll beautify and bring people together. And specifically with COVID right now, we can do social distancing. It's outside. We can create opportunities where it's still safe for everybody. People can be in their cars and just pull up and see art being created. So, not even talking about a revenue for the city. Right now, with COVID, we all trying to figure out ways to consistently grow and build and keep inspiring and keep, keeping things moving. So art is an economical tool as well, because it puts us on the map, So all across the country, you're seeing, I'm getting calls from everywhere outside of Cape. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, yo, can you do some public art? So we got to do more of that here, and I don't want to be the only artist, you know what I mean? We need more artists who can full-time create, you know what I mean, and not have to get wrapped up into the 9 to 5. It's like, either I got to do the 9 to 5 thing or create art, and they can't do both. So with affordable housing, with, affordable spaces, with, legal walls and legal spaces where we can just create art, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, because I just went to Detroit, and I've been to these spaces in New Mexico and places like that. But I just went to the Heidelberg Museum in Detroit, which was created by Tyree Guyton, and he came back from Vietnam, and during the 1967 civil unrest that left Detroit totally destroyed, he came back and was wondering how to create a safe space for the kids in his neighborhood. He was looking to answer this existential question, which is what art does. And so he's asking this question about like how do I make this a more livable space among this fallout, And so he just started taking salvage things and spray painting them, and soon enough, it was safe to walk around that community. There was less violence. You have people from all over the world, 250,000 people annually go to this section of Detroit just to see this space. So when you're talking about the revenue that garners for local business, for local hotels, that benefits everybody.
Art is good business.
Yeah, it is.
It's just good business. If you look at business trends, if you understand business period, if you understand financing, you understand that wealth is built. A lot of wealth is put in art.
Yeah.
So art is a thing that the more that you invest in it, the more that that investment is going to constantly keep coming back. So with Instagram, Facebook, people are looking to come to a city and looking for spaces that they can be able to take photos and pictures and be able to share with the world, especially right now with COVID. People are looking for destination places they can trust and places that they know they can be able to have an incredible experience. So, Cape Girardeau was perfect for that. I just left Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I got an email from a developer, and this developer contacted me, and she has 5 properties, and each property she wants murals on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, yo, I want murals on all of my properties, right? And like I love my city of Milwaukee, but she wouldn't even give me the job because it was all built around local artists.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I put some of my students on it, but I couldn't hate. I was just loving, like, are you trying to keep it? I understand, because a lot of times people come outside the city, come get the money, and then local people suffer, So we got to be able to do more of making sure that we sustain ourselves by creativity. We use art as a tool to heal, right? Because we are trying to figure out how to get through this COVID situation. We got a lot of healing to do. We got a lot of trauma to deal with. You know, let's get together. Let's paint the city, you know what I'm saying, colorful. You know,
Yeah.
we got enough vacant buildings. We got enough landlords, you know, who ain't paying taxes. So let's get some of these vacant buildings. Let's organized together, and it ain't got to be built around a whole lot of money. It's just built around just having people, like you were saying, you know, collaborating together.
Bring your resources.
Bring the
It's
resources
like, you know,
together so we can make it a win-win situation.
It's sustainable prosperity. If everybody brings their resource, if everybody has a tool and they bring their resource to it, then everybody will prosper.
Right.
You might not, you know, it might not be the stock exchange where you're going to get some huge return, but your dollar will be stronger. You know, that if you invest in local economy and local artists, like dollar for dollar, everything gets stronger. So.
And thanks for everybody who has, you know, invested in local artists, because without you guys, we couldn't stay here. You know, all of the small businesses, you know, that really decide to, instead of getting something digital, I'm gonna hire a painter to do it. You know, or hiring a local photographer, or a local videographer, or local studio. You know, these creative services need support, because without them, then there's no outlet. There's no way that, you know, we can do things like this. You know, so we need you guys to continuously support these creative services, so we can kind of keep these conversations moving forward.
Truth. We thank everybody for joining us this evening. If you want to catch the, make sure you watch out for the re-release of this, where you can see the full conversation.
From all three dimensional angles.
All three dimensions. We're definitely gonna be doing this. You know, this collaboration. You'll see our faces a lot together from now on, because we're gonna be putting a lot of this out there. Same thing with 20 North Pacific. We are going to. He's gonna bring that over to their grand opening on September 4th, and that's a new Black-owned art gallery here in town. Paris and Jay are amazing humans, so make sure that you support not only Malcolm. Check him out, add him on Instagram, Facebook. Same thing with Top Talent. They're on all your social media. Justice for Maddie, if you want to follow that campaign, that is also on social media. And I'm Kelly Downs.
Kelly, Queen.
Thanks, you guys.
Peace and love.